On this episode of The Roadhouse, part 3 basically of blowing up the car, getting chased by grasshoppers, and a whole lot of adventure. Enjoy. All right, so we're off and rolling. So, the last couple episodes of the Roadhouse, I've been telling you about, me getting burned and the Nikes and my job at Means Restaurant. So all those years, I was like 12 years old. I wanted to put out there that I had to get a work permit to work at that Chinese restaurant. But I'm going to go back a little bit further since I've been thinking a lot about my life. So this was like in the mid-70s. I think I might have been 7 years old. But I just, a few miles back, had a grasshopper literally land on my windshield wiper. And it brought this memory back, so I wanted to share it with you. So back in the day, I used to play with G.I. Joe dolls. And so this G.I. Joe doll I had, my mom went out and got me, actually my dad got me a parachute. I guess you call it a kit that went on to the doll. So anyways, you would throw the doll up in the air and then the parachute would open and it would float down, right? So I was so excited about my little G.I. Joe and his parachute. So I go outside and I'm by myself. Got my little big wheel and everything. Get my G.I. Joe all set up. So I got the doll all set up to parachute. So I threw it up in the air. It came down so cool, and I was so mesmerized. Like, wow, look at G.I. Joe floating with the parachute. Well, this doll, my G.I. Joe, he landed in this bush right next to the house where I was living. And I was like, oh, shoot. So I go climbing in this bush. Man, I tell you, talking about scared. These freaking grasshoppers, like, I don't know how many there were, but at 7 years old, it felt like millions of them, but it might have been a few hundred. I don't know. It was a lot. Bright green grasshoppers. They just started flying and hitting me in my face, and I feel them hit me all over my body like they were attacking me. And I couldn't find my G.I. Joe doll, and it just started freaking me out. All these bugs freaking landing on me and hitting me, and like, oh my God. So I ran out of the bush, and I'm running down the street, and I'm looking behind me, and they're like flying, coming after me. Oh my God, I'll never forget that. But yeah, I ended up knocking on a neighbor's door, tell them really quick the story, and they let me in, and I escaped those grasshoppers, but it took me a few minutes to get the nerve to go back home. I think I ran probably 20 houses down the street trying to get away from them grasshoppers, but yeah, I know I'm going back further for you guys, but that just popped in my mind because that one grasshopper landed on my wiper, so I wanted to tell you about that one. But yeah, I think I was about 7 years old when that happened. Another thing I remember, my brother Ricky, he's 7 years older than I am. He's inside the house, and I was just goofing around, and I wanted to climb the wall, and we had a brick wall around for our backyard. So I jumped up on the wall, and the top brick came loose. I fell down off the fence, and the brick, boom, crashed over my head. Freaked me out. Remember, I'm about 7 years old at this time. And I just remember running into the closet, like just freaked out. I mean, I was dazed. I mean, it literally broke. One of those big cinder block bricks. Anyways, it landed on my head, and then I remember my brother freaking opening up the closet door, looking at me like, "What are you doing in there?" And then I don't know why I was like scared to tell him what I did because it was a total accident, but I don't know. I was just staring at it, and he's like, "What's wrong with you, Raymond?" Anyways, I finally told my brother what I did, and he was just cracking up, man. But yeah, I don't remember bleeding or anything, but I just remember that brick hitting me and whew, knocked me silly. So that was another thing. So that was when I was 7, and I already told you about the mobile and the car. The car blowing up, I was 12 years old. And I'm not telling you these stories to go all over the place. Just as I'm driving, this is all like things that are coming to me that I remember. So I just wanted to share it with you guys. I hope you enjoy these stories. I mean, when I tell it, it's just kind of amazing. But yeah. Anyways, the grasshopper and the brick, and then the car. Then I told you about when I got my first job as a busboy at the Chinese restaurant. This is kind of funny. So let's go back into mobile. So I was 17 years old when I first started working there, and I was just a temporary, worked for that timely temporary service in Southgate. So they couldn't hire me until I was 18, mobile. Couldn't hire me permanently. So I worked there for, I don't know, about 9 months, maybe a year. Now I'm thinking about it. Could have been about a year. But anyways, another tragedy happened. This was in, I believe, 1984. And I can be off on certain years and stuff, but I'm trying to get it just right. But I was working on the bottle line at Mobile, and they announced over the speaker for Raymond, you have a guest at the front gate at the security shack. And I was like, wow. So I shut the bottle line down, and I went walking out there, and it was my brother Ricky, and he was crying like crazy, man. And obviously, I knew something bad was gonna happen. And yeah, he told me he's dead. I'm like, who's dead? And he's like, Kenny Ray, and that was my older brother. So the story is he drove his wall in Whittier, across Whittier Boulevard. Drove his car into this wall, and the steering column went through his chest. And he was driving a 1979 Thunderbird, gold. I remember that. But what was really weird is he left a suicide note that said, "Sorry, Dad, I couldn't make it 20 or 30 years." And he was talking about being in the Army, because my dad was in the Army. But the writing, he had a really distinct K that when he wrote his name, was really a trippy, really neat looking K for Kenny. And it was really weird. So, and what still bugs me to today, if he was going to commit suicide driving his car into this wall, there were skid marks. So if there's skid marks, doesn't that tell you that if he was going to commit suicide, that he changed his mind? But anyways, yeah, that story there, that was one of my first really death that really hit home, and it still hurts me today because he was a pretty cool dude, man. So that was pretty brutal. And I believe that was in 1984 My memory's telling me, because that's the year I turned 18 and they did hire me permanently. So, yay! So that worked out pretty well. So as I'm working through mobile, that all went past and still not over it. But anyways, time goes on. I remember somewhere in the 80s, this might have been 85, 86. Mobile just built a brand new tank. It was a ATF, automatic transmission fluid tank. It was a brand new tank, and they wanted me to go up on the tank and gauge it so we could figure out mathematically how many gallons we could put inside this tank. So I go on up there and to gauge it. So you open up the big dome cover. That way, if they got to do any kind of repairs or whatever, it's a big side.
Take the exit
Sorry.
on the right to I-29 south toward Kansas City.
Thank you, Garmin. All right, anyways, so I open up the dome, and it's like fishing, basically. It's a aluminum tape measure, and it has a weight on the bottom. And you just unravel it, and you let it go down inside the tank till the weight hits the bottom, and then you read off like how many feet. So I was a couple of 100 feet up in the air, and remember, it's brand new, so a lot of the railing and all that wasn't even put on yet, because we're just all trying to figure out. They just built it, so just trying to figure out how many gallons to put in there. But a freaking earthquake hit, and I believe it was the Whittier earthquake. I was thinking Northridge, but that was later in the 90s. So I think this one was Whittier, because I know it hit a mall, and it really messed up the mall. The parking structure collapsed.
Right to I-29 south toward Kansas City.
Anyways, so I'm on top of this freaking tank. The earthquake hits. No rails around it. So I'm like, I hit belly on the tank, like trying to hang on. And I'm looking across, I'm 200 feet up in the air, looking across, and the earth was like waves. You could see like buildings like moving like that. And it was so bizarre. I'm talking about scared. Oh, I'm just thinking I'm going off this freaking tank because there's nothing to grab a hold of. So I'm hanging on with my fingernails, like sliding off. Blood's coming out from my fingernails, and my feet got my foot was off the tank. So that's how close I was falling off that thing. Oh, man, talking about spooky. So yeah, that was pretty wild. Well, I know I've been rambling on, but that's just another little part of Raymond Riggs' life story. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And let's see what else we can come up with tomorrow's story. But hey, I appreciate you riding along the truck with Bo and I on this adventure. And like I said, I hope you guys do enjoy my stories. Feels kind of good, a little therapy for me to get it out there and let you know. Like I've said, this is all hope. I'm sure a lot of you haven't blown up a car or fallen off a tank or in an earthquake like that. So I hope you find it interesting, and always keep your hope, and always have God, family, and country. It's the way I try to live. But yeah, keep your head up, shoulders back, chest out, and be proud, man. Ladies, whoever's watching. But again, thank you for coming along the ride. Until the next episode, have a great day, a great evening, or whenever you're watching this. All right, guys. Thank you. See you on the next one.